Okay, so it's been a while that I've been on here, and I haven't been on because I've been really paying close attention to what's going on lately since the rioting and the insurrection that took place at the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. So, all of the government and federal buildings and all of the classified buildings or highly classified buildings are on high alert right now, even here in the Los Angeles area. And I noticed what I basically am updating here from Los Angeles, some of the things that I've witnessed. Um, Everywhere is on high alert where they think something horrible could happen. So, what I've been hearing more recently is that the Capitol building insurrection is not the only planned event that was supposed to take place. That something's supposed to happen before or either during the inauguration of Biden and Harris. And I've been hearing a lot of that. Um, Now, the reason why I have this article showing it is it has gotten so dangerous. And it's basically what I had been talking about and careful to talk about is that the Capitol rioters included highly trained military cops. And they're ex military cops. And so there are people that are highly trained to use weapons, legally um, registered to use weapons. And some of those weapons are not weapons where they come and shoot people close up, but they can be at a distance. And they know how to use these weapons. They've trained for years. And so this is why they're on such high alert. And so what I was hearing is that they possibly want to not only riot or go after just the Capitol building as they did, but they when the inauguration or before or during or even after, they may want to target other highly classified buildings. So that's why everywhere is on high alert. And so it's pretty dangerous. And so if you're in any of these buildings during around that time, just be looking out, keep your eyes and ears open, and be aware that it may not look dangerous now, but it is. And if you have people like this that are part of QAnon and they're part of these conspiracy groups, there's really relatively nothing you can do except stay alert and be aware of what comes next. And so that is the reason why it is really dangerous times right now. And I wanted to add what happened in Washington was really, really bad because people from the outside that already had a problem, maybe in the past or maybe even now, people like foreign governments or foreign military that may not have had good relations with the U.S. were looking at that and seeing that we have issues here with homegrown terrorists and people who have basically joined, groups like the Taliban and, all of these other groups that had issues with the U.S. When you have this kind of thing happen and shown widely all over the world, all those groups are also looking at it and they see just how easy it is to mesh in a crowd of people like this and infiltrate and do a lot more damage than any of these people that maybe from here would. And you've got groups from other places that are part of religions where they're not afraid to die and take their own life. So remember that. So if they die killing a lot of other people, they're not afraid to do so. And so we saw what happened in 9/11. And so this is why this time is extremely dangerous. And so I'm being honest about this video that anywhere you go, you have to really be watching what's going on and paying attention. It's not about, oh, I don't look at the news or everything on the news is bad. Well, you want to know where you're going and you want to know what events are occurring, because if you are anywhere in the vicinity of something that could be really bad and could turn really ugly, you want to be aware of how to get out of the situation if you could save your life or maybe someone that you're with. So you don't want to be, ignorant to the fact that we are still currently in a pandemic. There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of things that are happening right now that are really, really important for people to be aware that it is affecting. I don't know anyone that it isn't affecting, but it is affecting so many millions of people. We have COVID-19, we have the vaccination issue, and then we have the Capitol rioting, which is now not even rioting. They say it's insurrection, which it really is, and homegrown terrorism is actually higher now than what it has ever been, after seeing just how easy it is to go inside of the Capitol building and do the damage that was done. And so people on the outside of the US saw that. So remember that. And that makes it extremely dangerous. And so the people that were involved in that not only need to be held accountable for what they did, but they need to realize the threat that they've caused to the US in doing that, and to so many people. The other thing I wanted to mention is that about the vaccination. So now they're so there's a mix of things that I'm talking about in here. So it's not just the Capitol building, but here in LA, I can say that, I myself, honestly, I had been receiving these emails from different pharmaceutical, commercial pharmaceutical establishments, and they basically were alerting that they would be getting vaccination medication, and when they are able to distribute it, they would contact and let people know. Now, there's some places that are already doing that, but I heard a woman, and they didn't really focus on what she said as much. They just showed her a couple of times, but I believe this to be true. What she was saying is that people who are not even supposed to be in line to get vaccinated yet are cutting the line, or either they're using some kind of way to get ahead of others who actually need to be vaccinated. And I believe that's what's happening, because I was sent something recently, and I actually was sent something to be vaccinated, and I was one of the ones that should have gotten a chance to schedule that, and before I could even sign up, it was already gone, you know. And so I noticed that, and I was thinking maybe there's a lot of people that probably should not be doing it, and they're not showing the proper identification. They may not even be from the cities they're driving far out, or they're traveling just to get the medication to get vaccinated, and they don't have the proper, you know, requirement to say that they are the next in line to be vaccinated. And so, from what I know, as far as I know, that the vaccination is supposed to be free for everyone, but they're going by priorities in terms of people's age, in terms of people's health risk, and what kind of occupation that you work in. If you're in a high exposure occupation, or if you are in an occupation where you might work in a hospital, or if you work in an environment where you could possibly be more at risk. So I believe some people are maybe using maybe they're using fake documents. Maybe they're using excuses that sound like they really are from an organization and they're not, or they are traveling from a long distance and they don't even stay in the area, and they're getting ahead of others, which is really unfair. And so it puts more people at risk that need it, the vaccination. So I wanted to mention that. The other thing is people are afraid of the vaccinations. So some people don't want to get them until they know that it's safe. There's still fear that, these vaccinations may have something in it that could cause some other issues later down the road. So some people are still afraid, and others may not get the vaccination because they feel like, well, why would I get vaccinated and my whole family can't get vaccinated? So if they can't get vaccinations, then I won't get it until the general population is being given it. Then I will then go with my family and get it, because it feels as though you're safe, but your family's not safe if you are the only one to get vaccinated, and your family may not fit in any of those requirements to be in line of priority of getting it, which is awkward because that happens. I'm sure people see that. Anybody, like, say if you're a doctor or you're a nurse in your family, they're not doctors and nurses, but you get vaccinated and the family doesn't. It feels like you're safe, but they're not safe. So I don't think they thought about all of this. They really didn't work out all of these things. But I was hearing that when Biden finally gets inaugurated, the first 100 days, I believe he's supposed to put out more vaccination availability for millions and more people. That would probably be a good idea if it works. And I haven't heard much about whether these medicines are actually working. Um, Maybe if we give it a couple of more weeks or months and see that people are not dying and the numbers of deaths go down and the numbers of infections rates start to go down, then it'll start to be more believable. That might ease the minds of people who are not really um, wanting to get the shots. And if they see that, then maybe it'll be more of a convincing thing, possibly. But sometimes side effects take time. You don't know if it's a couple of weeks, months, maybe even years. And then who knows, maybe there's side effects that people already have gotten from being exposed to this disease. So that has a lot to do with what's going on right now. So I know I mentioned a lot about COVID-19 in this, but I feel like whenever there's a crisis or some disaster and all these other things that are going on in the White House, them haggling over the stimulus, haggling over how much unemployment payments they're going to give people, and then this disease, people fighting over masks, fighting over people wearing and who's wearing and who's not wearing and who's doing what, and the anger and the frustration, and a lot of this is because of fear and uncertainty of the future. And then you had this thing that happened at the Capitol building, which was extremely deadly for some people. Some people died in that event, and I fear that more people will die. And it's not even just the pandemic. I fear that there will be more protests. This is not going to end, not quickly, because there's still a lot of heated anger and frustration over these events that took place. And there's still people that believe that Trump should have been the president. And even though it's been proven that he did not win and that Biden officially won the presidency, and after seeing the issue with the Capitol building, it just kind of scary. It brings back the whole incident of homegrown terrorism. Here we are, a country talking about terrorists in other lands coming here and invading, and we have people right here in our own backyard, quote unquote, that are just as deadly, if not even more, because they live here, they're familiar with American politics, and they're familiar with the places that are vulnerable and essential to everybody's livelihood. And so to have what happened that day at the Capitol building was extremely dangerous, and still extremely dangerous. It's not even saying that just that one incident, it could be other incidences that follow after it, and that's why we're on high alert because of what happened. I feel we should always be on high alert, especially now that we have social media, and I know that they can find these hate groups and these forums that are planning. Some of them don't even go on forums. They go right on Twitter. They go right on YouTube and post their guns and what they're going to do. Sometimes they say what places they're going to go. They hint. And so I don't know how they couldn't have seen that coming when there was so many posts on Twitter basically pretty much spelling out what they were about to do. And I guess maybe they didn't take it serious, but maybe now after that happened and you see that some officers actually died, maybe now they'll see it's not a game. You need to take it serious when people are posting what their next steps are going to be and where they're going to attack, where they're going to protest, where they're going to meet, and where are they going to meet, and what kind of building is it, who's in there. They need to look at all of that stuff. But I feel like this is not over, and even though Trump is acting as like he's kind of backing away a little bit because it's so heavy duty, I feel like he knew what was going to happen, and he knew that it could get ugly, but he probably wasn't thinking that he's going to be the main actor that's going to be held accountable. The other thing is that he probably didn't realize that he has a following now because of all of the misinformation that he had been given about COVID, and he was still having parties, he was doing things even to the very end. So I heard that they're cleaning out things and they're leaving. But even with him being gone out of the office, the remnants of anger and frustration and hatred is still there, of people who followed his administration and the little movement they had going in their protests. And those people, I believe, are even bigger and worse. And like I was saying in prior videos, that he was probably more of a threat in his last days than he ever was in the beginning of the 4 years that he was in office, Trump. And so I was right, unfortunately. And sometimes these are the things that I don't want to be right about, but I happen to be right about. And I feel like I'm right about some other things that are going to happen, and they're not going to be good because of what went on at the Capitol building. And so, having said that, I will say more. There's more anger, there's more fear. People are really desperate here in Los Angeles to look at the city and the county here, the South Los Angeles. There has been a lot of desperation. People are basically pent up in their house. They can only go to like maybe the grocery store or maybe restaurants to do takeout and order food. And every little business that's open, they're super cautious about what they do. There's a lot of fear, people looking at each other, not knowing who's going to do what, if people are going to get robbed, or if people are going to be desperate and try something. So people feel like they have to carry protection because of fear. And I want to mention, I know this is going to sound maybe unrelated, but it is related. Because of the moratorium, it was extended. It was supposed to end the end of January, but it's supposed to end the end of February, and it could be extended. Now, it's good for people who need it and who are rent burdened or they've lost jobs and they need the help. And I always say this, however, the downside of it is there are people who are there's a group of folks, bad actors, that take advantage of the moratorium. If they already, before the pandemic even happened, were not paying rent, they were trying to take over buildings, maybe they're drug dealing, they're involved in criminal activity, that moratorium is protecting those type of people as well. And so there are some buildings in South LA that have issues like that, and they are overlooked or underlooked. And the tenants that are trying to just stay safe feel unsafe in their own apartments because their apartment building has issues with squatters and people who are bad actors. And so those people make it feel even more unsafe. And so I want to mention that. And they have not looked at those issues either. Those are some other issues that are happening. So it's like you're almost feeling as though you have to really walk lightly and be careful, and you're trapped in your own apartment. You have to not only fear what could happen in your city on the outside, but what could happen in your neighborhood on the outside. And so it makes it really scary all the way around. So I haven't really focused on the videos very often because I've been focusing on what's going on because it's been so crazy. So this article, it says that there's Capitol rioters that were included highly trained ex-military cops. Military and cops. So that it makes it even worse if you put them together. So let me read that again. It says these people were Capitol rioters included highly trained ex-military and cops, so both. So that's not good either. So these are still photos of individuals who Capitol breach military police. An undated photo provided by the Grapevine, Texas Police Department. Okay, during the deadly riot of the U.S. Capitol Wednesday, January the 6th, Brock is photographed on the Senate floor wearing a helmet and heavy vest and carrying a zip tie handcuffs. He's a retired Air Force officer and was arrested in Texas and charged on Sunday, January the 10th. And so he's pictured here. And so these people are serious, real deal individuals. These are not like street punks or street criminals that just get mad and say we've had it and we're going down there, we're marching down there. These are people that actually were highly trained individuals. Now this one, he's an Army veteran who had founded the Oath Keepers in 2009 as a reaction to the presidency to Barack Obama. He had been saying for weeks, January 6, 2021 Capitol riot, that his group was preparing for a civil war. And he was armed, prepared to go in if the president calls us up. And so these are not people to take lightly. They are no joke. This guy he put a video out. I'm not going to play it. Intel update for caravan to DC an event. And so this is what I'm saying is, how could they not have seen this? They basically were giving all of the hints, not even hints. They basically were saying what they were going to do, and they were unafraid to admit what they were going to go do. And so this is what's so disturbing, because here we are, we're supposed to be highly secure U.S., and we're supposed to have the highest trained military, yet our own people here are plotting against the U.S. and they're highly trained. January 6, 2021, United States Capitol Police in a complaint and arrest warrant, Rocky Mount Police Department Sergeant Thomas T.J. Robertson and Officer Jacob Fracker in the Capitol in front of the statue of John Stark, Revolutionary War officer famous for writing the state motto of the New Hampshire, "Live free or die." And so they were basically taking selfies in front of this. And so this is the kind of stuff that they were totally unaware of. And here you got this woman here. Emily Rainey speaks during the interview. Southern Pines, North Carolina, I believe, May 2020, Army. The Army is investigating Rainey, psychological operations officer who led a group of people to North Carolina to the rally in Washington that led to the deadly riot in the U.S. Capitol by supporters for President Donald Trump. And so these are not people to take lightly. They're very militant. They were very involved, very highly trained individuals. And so anyone that thinks this is funny or this was a joke or something to just, oh, nothing's going to happen, now you see that these people weren't playing. And something like this, look at all these people. They only caught some of these people. All of these people weren't caught. Some of these people didn't get to do what they planned to do. And so this is what they're fearing, that more of these actors will come out and actually do more of what they plan to do. And so the formation known as the Ranger File is standard operation procedure for a combat team that is stacking up to breach a building, instantly recognizable to the U.S. soldier or Marine who served in Iraq and Afghanistan. So it is a chilling sign that many of the vanguard of the mob that stormed the seat of American democracy either had military training or were trained by those who did. The Associated Press reviewed the public record social media posts and videos showing at least 21 current or former members of the U.S. military and law enforcement had been identified as being at the, or near the Capitol building during that time they had the insurrection, the riot, with more than a dozen others under investigation but not yet named. So in many cases, those who stormed the Capitol building appeared to employ tactics, body armor, technologies such as two-way radio headsets that were similar to those of the very police they were confronting. So experts in homegrown extremism have warned for years about efforts of far-right militants and white supremacist groups to radicalize and recruit people with military and law enforcement training, and they say that January 6th insurrection that left 5 people dead saw some of the worst fears realized. So ISIS, Al-Qaeda would drool over having someone with training and experience in the U.S. military. Officers Michael German, a former FBI agent, a fellow of the Brennan Center of Justice in New York's University. These people have training and capabilities far to exceed what any foreign terrorist group can do. So foreign terrorist groups don't have any members who have badges. Among the most prominent to emerge as a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel, decorated combat veteran from Texas who was arrested after he was photographed wearing a helmet and body armor on the floor of the Senate holding a pair of zip-tie handcuffs. So Air Force veteran of San Diego was shot and killed by a Capitol police officer as she tried to leap through a barricade near the House chamber. Retired Navy SEAL, among the most elite special warfare operators in the military, posted a Facebook video, which you saw part of it, about traveling from his Ohio home to rally and seemingly approving the invasion of our building, of our house. 2 police officers from a small Virginia town, both themed former infantrymen, were arrested by FBI after posting selfies of themselves inside the Capitol building, one flashing his middle finger at the camera. Also under scrutiny is an active duty psychological warfare captain from North Carolina who organized 3 busloads of people who headed to the Washington Save America rally in support of the president's false claim in November election that it was stolen from him. And so while the Pentagon declined to provide an estimate for how many other active duty military personnel are under investigation, the military top leaders were concerned enough ahead of the President-elect Joe Biden inauguration that they issued a highly unusual warning to all service members this week that the right to free speech gives no one the right to commit violence. So the chief of the U.S. Capitol was forced to resign following the breach of several officers that have been suspended pending the outcome of the investigation in their conduct, including one who was posed with taking a selfie with the rioter, and another who was wearing one of Trump's red "Make America Again, Great Again" hats. And so the AP, or Associated Press, review of hundreds of videos and photos from the insurrectionist riot shows scores of people mixed in the crowd who were wearing military-style gear, including helmets, body armor, rucksacks, and two-way radios. So these are not street people in a neighborhood that are upset over an injustice. These are people who were highly trained individuals that were planning this whole insurrection. And so They had dozens that carried canisters, bear spray, baseball bats, hockey sticks, pro-Trump flags attached to stout poles, later used to bash police officers with. And so a close examination of the group marching up to the steps to help breach the Capitol shows they wore military-style patches that read militia and oath keeper on it. So others were wearing patches and insignias representing far-right military groups, including the Proud Boys, Three Percenters, and various self-styled state militias. The Oath Keepers, which claims to count thousands of current and former law enforcement officials and military veterans as members, have become fixtures of the protests and counter-protesters across the country. Okay, so often heavily armed and semi-automatic carbines and tactical shotguns is what they carry. So Stuart Rhodes, an Army veteran who funded the Oath Keepers in 2009, as a reaction of the presidency of Barack Obama, had been saying for weeks before the Capitol riot had occurred that his group was preparing for civil war and was armed, prepared to go in if the president calls him up. So Adam Newbold, the retired Navy SEAL from Lisbon, Ohio, whose more than 2-decade military career includes multiple combat awards for valor, said in January 5th Facebook video that we are just very, very prepared and very capable, very skilled patriots ready for a fight. And so he later posted a since deleted video, a follow-up video after the riot, saying he was proud of the assault. Newbold, he's 45 years of age and did not respond to multiple messages by Associated Press, but in an interview with the Task and Purpose website, he denied ever going inside the Capitol. Okay, so he added that because of the fallout in the videos, he has resigned from a program that helps prepare potential SEAL applicants. So retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Larry Randall Brock Jr. of Texas was released to home confinement. Okay, so excuse me for that noise. So after Thursday after the prosecutor alleged the former fighter pilot had a zip tie handcuff on the Senate floor because he planned to take hostages. Okay, this is how serious this is. He was planning to actually kidnap some people and take some hostages. So he means to kidnap, restrain, perhaps try, perhaps execute meaning kill members of the U.S. government. Assistant U.S. Attorney Jay Weimer said his prior experience and training make him all the more dangerous. So Army commanders at Fort Bragg in North Carolina are investigating the possible involvement of Captain Emily Rainey. She's a 30-year-old psychologist operations officer from Afghanistan war veteran who told the Associated Press she traveled with 100 others to Washington Capitol building to stand against election fraud. So she insisted that she acted with the Army regulation and that no one in her group entered the Capitol building or broke the law. That's what she's claiming, allegedly. So I was a private citizen and doing everything right within my rights, Rainey said. So more than 110 people have been arrested on charges related to the Capitol building riot so far, ranging from curfew violations to serious federal felonies related to theft and weapon possession. So Brian Harrell, who served as the Assistant Secretary for Infrastructure Protection at the Department of Homeland Security until last year, said it is obviously problematic when extremist bad actors have military and law enforcement background as well. So this is what makes this extremely dangerous at a time like this. These are people who have highly skilled trained backgrounds in these areas, and some of them probably still hold these jobs current as of today if they hadn't been caught. So many have specialized training, some have seen combat, nearly all have been fed disinformation and propaganda from illegitimate sources. Okay, so Harrell said, so a lot of them are basically part of groups, militia groups, or they are conspiracist or extremist believers. So they are fueled by conspiracy theories, feel as if something is being stolen from them, and they are not interested in debate. So this is a powder keg cocktail waiting to blow. So the FBI is warning that the potential for more bloodshed. And so in the internal bulletin issued Sunday, the Bureau warned of plans for armed protests at all 50 state capitals and Washington, D.C. in the coming weeks. And so meanwhile, police departments in such major cities, New York, Los Angeles, where I'm at, Las Vegas, Houston, Philadelphia, announced that they were investigating whether members of their agencies participated in this Capitol building insurrection, so a riot. So the Philadelphia area Transit Authority is also investigating whether 7 of its police officers who attended Trump rally in Washington broke any laws. Texas sheriff announced last week that he had reported one of his lieutenants to the FBI after she posted photos of herself on social media with a crowd outside the Capitol building. Bexar County Sheriff Xavier Salazar said Lieutenant Roxanne Mafaith, 46-year-old jailer, had the right to attend the rally, but he's investigating whether she has broken the law. And so one of the protests are one of the posts that Maith shared on the photo that appeared to be taken January 6th from among the mass of Trump supporters outside the Capitol building, caution not gonna lie. Aside from my kids, this was indeed the best day of my life, and it's not over yet. Okay, so it's like almost like forewarning something else is coming. So, a lawyer of Maeve, a mother and longtime San Antonio resident, said that she attended the Trump rally but never entered the building, Capitol building. But in Houston, police chief Art Acevedo said the 18-year-old, or 18, not 18-year-old, but 18-year veteran of the department suspected of joining the mob that breached the Capitol was placed on leave and will face a disciplinary hearing. So there is no excuse for criminal activity, especially from police officer Acevedo said. So I can't tell you the anger I feel at the thought of a police officer and other police officers thinking they get to storm the Capitol building. So Blakeberg reported from Dallas, Laporta from the Delray Beach, Florida, Robert Burns and Mike Balsamo in Washington, Jim Mustaine or Machine, I may not be saying it right, Michael R. Sisak, and the Lay Beatty in New York, Michael Kuzelman in College Park in Maryland, Juan A. Lozano in Houston, Claudia Lar in Philadelphia, Martha Bezel in Seattle, and Stephanie Dazio in Los Angeles contributed. Okay, so these are all the people who contributed to this article. So I'm sorry if I didn't say your names correctly, but this is the reason, basically the reason why I read this particular article, because it basically shows how dangerous this situation really is, and that you're not dealing with just street people who are upset because an injustice was done where somebody was shot. And, like when it's Black Lives Matter issues, somebody was shot in the street, or they weren't read their Miranda rights, or their injustice is being done. They didn't have any weapon, but they were killed, and they protest because they want justice. Now, this is something altogether different here. You have military, ex-military, ex-cops, some maybe currently working in these fields, or they're associated with people who are currently working in these fields that were at the Capitol building. Some posted videos. Some of these people, what I'm hearing, sound like they weren't really financially in a situation where they were hurting. They sound like they had really good jobs, occupations, that they had good backgrounds, and they had skills and whatnot. But yet, these people were able to go and do what they did. And a lot of people have been arrested, but there's a lot more out there that haven't been arrested and haven't been caught. And this is what makes it really scary. And from what I heard, is that someone told me, and I'm not going to say, that there are already social media posts or underground social media posts where they're planning to do other things, but in all 50 states, that's the reason why is on high alert that they're planning to do other things to other buildings. So that's why I'm telling you, be careful because it is extremely dangerous right now. Excuse me for the barking dog. But it is, that's why it's so dangerous right now, because these people are out there and other people like them are out there and they're waiting for something big, even bigger than what we saw. And so, having said that, I'm going to let this video go. Like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for listening. And be safe out there and keep your eyes and ears open because this is extremely dangerous. Dangerous, dangerous.